you ever talk,
We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order. Clerk will read the roll.
Freeman, Fusco, Hoke, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amovian, Samples, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky.
For those who voluntarily wish to do so, will you please stand at this time as we are led in prayer by Councilman Freeman. Immediately following our prayer will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Kamer.
We'll pray together. God, we come to you acknowledging how great you are and acknowledging how dependent we are. And you call us to walk humbly with you. You call us, God, to look to the needs of others, and we realize that those things we cannot do in our own strength. So we come to you as children, beseeching you as a loving Father that you might meet our need where we are, and that we might always bring the honor and glory to you. We pray these in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Oh, boy.
Clerk will read the minutes from our previously held meeting.
Council convened a regular session at 7 p.m. with President Somerville and Chair. All members were present. Minutes of the previous regular meeting were approved by a vote of 12-0 and Neal abstained. Reading of petitions and communications, passage of the consent agenda, report of standing and special committees, passage and referral of new ordinances and resolution, representation from various departments and divisions, public speaking period. No further business on a motion by Keith. Council adjourned at 7:41 to reconvene in regular session on October 21st, 2019, or special call.
Any corrections or additions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, and one abstention.
All right.
Letters, petitions, and communications.
Petition of Terry Vale for conditional use to establish a warehouse and offices at 1011 Gorge Boulevard.
File.
Petition of IBH Foundation Incorporated for conditional use to establish counseling services and offices at 1601 South Main Street.
File.
Petition of Frank Charlillo for conditional use to construct a parking lot on the west side of Yellowstone Avenue, south of East Talmadge Avenue.
File.
Petition of Terrell Thomas for conditional use to construct a storage building at 1079 Himmelwright Boulevard.
File.
Petition of Judith A. Sampson for conditional use to establish a cleaning business at 795 East Wilbeth Road.
File.
Notice of a transfer of a C1, C2 liquor permit to Muna AB LLC, doing businesses as Muna Market 192 West South Street.
Special attention, Councilperson Somerville.
Notice of a transfer of a D1, D2, D3, D3A to Center Road Tavern Incorporated, 561 South Cyberling Street.
Special attention, Councilman Milkovich.
Item number 8, notice of a new D5 liquor permit to Rose Nail Spa Corporation, East Waterloo Road.
Special attention, Councilman Kamer.
Notice of a transfer of a C1, C2 liquor permit to Mogador Mini LLC, doing business as Family Mini Mart, 3105 Forest Park Boulevard.
Special attention, Councilman Hoke.
Notice of a liquor agency contract to Fred Albrecht Grocery, doing business as Acme Fresh, 1835 West Market Street.
Special attention, Councilperson Keith.
Correspondence from Julie Wall regarding pit bulls.
File.
Income tax receipts through the end of September 2019.
File.
Executive financial report for the third quarter 2019.
File.
Transfer of a D5, D6 liquor permit to Wing House Group LLC, doing business as the Wing House at 1300 East Talmadge Avenue.
Special attention, Councilman Kilby.
Notice of the Summit County Court of Common Pleas regarding CV 2019-02-0442, James Brooks versus the City of Akron, Ohio Council.
File. Before you, you have the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Freeman, Fusco, Hoke, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Avobian, Samples, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky.
This evening, we do have 2 public hearings. So I'm going to ask if there's anyone here in the audience that is here to speak on either of our public hearings, if you could please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in by a member of our law department. So if you are here to speak on 1868 Marigold Avenue or on West Center Street, if you can please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in by our law department.
Hi, if you would, please raise your right hands. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do. Hey, thank you.
Okay, the first public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, October 21st, 2019, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. at Akron City Council Chambers, 166 South High Street, on an ordinance authorizing conditional use to establish a child daycare center, child daycare business at 1868 Marigold Avenue.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. Michael Ferguson is requesting permission to establish a child daycare business at this location. Proposed daycare business would be located on the ground floor of the split-level, 2,300 square foot home. Facility would provide services and activities for up to 12 children ranging from newborn to 5 years of age. The daycare would be operated Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. There would be no overnight stays. The petitioner plans on hiring an additional 2 employees if approved. The property contains a partially covered outdoor play area and the backyard is enclosed. The petitioner has stated that she does not intend to care for more than 12 children at a time because the children will be scattered throughout the day. Proposed use should not be intrusive to the neighborhood as the outdoor play area is fenced and the majority of the activities are conducted indoors. The dwelling contains an attached 2-car garage with ample room for drop-off and pickup. Providing quality daycare services is beneficial to the entire city, and as such, the planning staff supports the request. Both Planning Commission and planning staff recommend approval, subject to conditions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of this ordinance? We're just going to ask that you approach the podium and give us your name and your address.
My name is Michael Ferguson. I live at 1868 Marigold, and I am just here to answer questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak in favor of this ordinance? Is there anyone here that would like to speak against? Anyone who wishes to speak against? Seeing and hearing none, we will close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco.
Yes, thank you, President Somerville. I would like to poll the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Mobian? Kamer? Neal? Swirsky?
Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. The petitioner has agreed to the 6 conditions that the planning department has asked them to comply with. I am aware that there was some concern in the neighborhood with regards to this, but Council Representative Kamer had convened a meeting or meetings, discussions with the petitioner as well as some of the residents in the neighborhood to alleviate their concerns. I believe that's been taken care of at this point. So with that, we recommend approval this evening.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Freeman, Fusco, Hoke, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky. Okay, public hearing number 2. Notice is hereby given, and the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, October 21st, 2019, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. in Akron City Council Chambers, 166 South High Street, on an ordinance authorizing conditional use to construct a parking lot on West Center Street.
Okay. Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. City of Akron is the owner of an irregularly shaped parcel of land located on the east side of West Center Street, north of a short stub of West State Street. The Community Action Agency established an office at 230 West Center Street in 1985 and now wishes to acquire a small piece of vacant city property to establish additional off-street parking for employees. The hard surface parking lot would be landscaped and meet zoning code requirements. Planning staff is of the opinion that the sale of this small vacant property is not needed for city purposes. Further, the sale is in the city's long-term interest, and the establishment of additional off-street parking would reduce any congestion on the narrow street. Both Planning Commission and planning staff recommend approval subject to conditions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of this ordinance? Just going to ask that you approach the podium and give us your name and your address.
I'm Angela Alford. Address is 55 East Mill Street in Akron, Ohio. I'm a representative of Akron Community Action.
Good. And is there anything you want to share with us regarding the proposal?
I would just like to say I was here earlier, did not know we had an opposition, but we're willing to work with City Council and the residents to come to a happy medium or some compromise.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anyone else here in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of this ordinance? Is there anyone here in the audience that wishes to speak against?
My name is Lillian Casera. I live at 251 West Center Street. For those of you who have never been on that street and never lived on that street, I suggest that you take a visit. It's too small to put a parking lot where kids play. There's a small area where kids ride their bike. Now you want to put traffic there so a business can park. You already took away I-State 59. Use part of that for parking. How many kids do you know go outside nowadays and play? They're on video games and they're watching TV. We have kids that play Nerf. Talking to some of the residents that live in an apartment complex next to me, they brought up that the kids go there. The snowball fights, the baseball games, the basketball hoops that we put up. Now you're going to put cars there. Someone's car is going to get scratched, the ball is going to go through someone's window. It's not enough room to let our kids play and you put 6 or 7 parking spots there. There is no medium to do that. So now you're going to take away the little space and the little time that these kids do have to play. We don't have backyards. It's nothing but a cemetery. I can't even grow weeds in my backyard. There's so much dirt back there. So now what are the kids supposed to do? They need to learn how to ride a bike. There's no traffic, so we can let the kids ride a bike. They can play out there. You're setting kids up to failure just to look at video games and watch TV all day rather than be kids and play. Use part of I-59 if you need parking, but do not take away the areas that we have for these kids just for parking. There has to be somewhere else you guys can go and not mess with our street.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in the audience that wishes to speak against this ordinance? Seeing and hearing none, we will close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco.
Yes, thank you, President Somerville. I'd like to pull the committee to refer this item. Amobian? Kamer? Neal? Swirsky?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Fusco, your pleasure on the rest of the agenda.
Time on 3, and the report of the committee is favorable with suspension of the rules on 4. This one here, the report of the committee is favorable as for suspension of the rules. This particular item here is authorizing the sale of some city-owned land, approximately 20 vacant parcels. Council Representative Swirsky convened a series of meetings actually with the West Hill Neighborhood Organization, as well as the organization, which is also known as St. Vincent St. Mary, convened meetings, had discussions about the intent of those properties that the city is willing to sell, and I understand that a coming together of the minds, if you will. An agreement is about to be penned soon with the West Hill Neighborhood Organization, as well as St. Vincent St. Mary, kind of outlining an agreement to work together and cooperate. So with that, we recommend approval this evening.
Thank you. Any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Freeman, Fusco, Hoke, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Sample, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky.
Councilman Fusco?
Yes, thank you. There's a substitute on item number 5, Mr. Clerk. If you could please read that.
Okay. Offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing conditional use to establish a 2-unit dwelling at 418 Crestwood Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Report of the committee is favorable, and we ask for suspension of the rules.
Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you again. Here we have, this originally came in as a 3-unit proposal. A meeting was convened with the planning department as well as the council representatives for the area. This Crestwood itself divides 2 wards. The ward council representatives came together with the petitioner and a neighborhood organization, as well as our friends in the planning department, and developed basically a compromise. Thus, is it described by the clerk, thus declaring this a 2-unit versus the 3-unit. And there was an agreement with regards to additional parking for the neighborhood in the area over there. So with that, we recommend approval this evening.
The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Freeman, Fusco, Hoke, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Sample, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky.
Councilman Fusco?
Yes, thank you, President Somerville. The request of the committee is file number 6.
Item number 6 will be filed.
Thank you. Time on 7.
Time on 7.
Yes, and file item number 8. That's a petition for the daycare center we just voted on. Time on item number 9.
Time will be granted on item number 9.
File items 10 and 11. I believe we've already addressed those 2.
File items 10 and 11.
Then time on the balance.
Time will be granted. We'll now go back to the portion of the rest of our old business. Rules. Councilperson Keith.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like time on all 3 items. However, the sponsor of item number 1, the resolution, would like that to be voted on next week. So if council members could take another look at that, that will be voted on next week.
Okay. Thank you so much. Time will be granted. We'll now move into our new legislation. Planning.
That was one of the items 1 and 2 were the public hearings this evening. Item 3, or actually item 4 on the new legislation had a substitute. That was on Crestwood. We've dealt with that one. So we'll move right into item number 4 on new legislation offered by Keith. It's a resolution declaring it necessary to improve Waterloo Road between the termini of Glenmount Avenue and Kelly Avenue by resurfacing and declaring emergency. This is also supported by Mr. Kamer.
Councilperson Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like this item to be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 5, offered by Keith and Kamer. Resolution declaring it necessary to improve Waterloo Road between the termini of Manchester Road and Glenmount Avenue by resurfacing and declaring emergency.
Councilperson Keith?
Madam President, the committee would like this item to be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 6, offered by Keith. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the Safe Routes to School 2019 program and declaring emergency.
Councilperson Keith?
Madam President, the committee would like this item to be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 7, offered by Keith. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a water pollution control loan fund agreement with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency, otherwise known as the EPA, and or the Ohio Water Development Authority for the construction of sanitary sewer reconstruction 2018 large diameter lining project and declaring emergency.
Councilperson Keith?
Madam President, the committee would like this item to also be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 8, offered by Keith. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the construction of a sanitary sewer reconstruction 2018 large diameter lining project and declaring emergency.
Councilperson Keith?
Madam President, the committee would like this item to be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 9, offered by Keith. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a water pollution control loan fund agreements with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency and the Ohio Water Development Authority for the construction of the Cuyahoga Street Storage Facility Project and declaring an emergency.
Councilperson Keith?
Madam President, the committee would like this to be placed on the consent agenda, and I must comment that these are for upgrades and improvements that were not possible at the time.
Thank you. This item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 10, offered by Keith. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee, after publicly advertising for bid, to enter into a contract or contracts for the improvement, repair, and/or rehabilitation of the Cuyahoga Street Storage Facility and associated areas, CSO RAC number 40, and declaring emergency.
Councilperson Keith?
The committee would like this to be placed on the consent agenda.
This will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 11, offered by Mayor Horrigan. It's a resolution approving and confirming the reappointment of Donald Christian, Mark Deering, Renee Green to the Metropolitan Transit Authority Board of Trustees and declaring emergency.
Councilperson Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. Not to ruin the rhythm we got going, this will be placed on the consent agenda, and these are 3-year terms.
Thank you. This item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay. Item number 12, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contract to provide water service connections and eliminate certain existing public water systems as part of the Akron PWS realization project and declaring an emergency. Go ahead.
Councilperson Samples?
Thank you, Madam President. Committee would like this item placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item 12A, ordinance amending and/or supplementing Title 5, Public Works, Chapter 50, Sewers, Section 5022, Sewer Service Charges of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Akron to establish summer sprinkling program rates for residential customers in the city and declaring an emergency.
Councilperson Samples?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee is requesting time.
Time will be granted.
Okay. Item number 13, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent without the formality for advertising for bids to enter into a contract or contracts with tailor-made ambulance to provide the remounting and refurbishment of one 2007 tailor-made emergency medical unit and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Committee's report is to refer this item, please.
this item will be referred. We will now go to the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment period. If you wish to speak to council during this time, you may approach the podium. We're going to ask that you please give us your name and your address. You will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. Speakers are reminded that this is an official meeting. Remarks should be kept respectful and germane to council business. Speakers should refrain from making any personal attacks. Anyone who breaches decorum will be ruled out of order and will be removed from council chambers. Is there anyone here this evening that would like to speak during our public comment period? You may approach the podium.
My name is Joyce McMillan. My address is 2242 Urick Circle, Akron, Ohio. I'm speaking regarding leaves and this pamphlet, that paper you sent out with our utility bill. And if I have a specific neighbor that is already putting leaves in the street. And you're not to put them in the street. Our leaves don't get picked up till December 7th. And I called the 311, I called the action number on Friday, and they said someone from the street department would get back to me regarding this. I didn't hear from anyone, and I called again 311 this morning, and then I called, they said okay, and I called the action number again about 9 a.m., and they forwarded my call to a Kevin Miller, who's somewhat in charge of the street department, and they said he would get back to me. They could not connect me because he was not in his office at the time. I never heard back from him the whole day again. And you know, every year I have the same problem. My son says just take our backpack blower and blow his leaves back in his yard because the leaves blow straight down our street. I mean, I don't mind getting leaves what blow, it's fine. I know it's fall and leaves fall. But if you blow them into the street and they don't even stay to the curb, they're all blowing my way. And I end up picking up the leaves for 8 houses. And I don't really think I should have to. I mean, I pay the tax just like everyone else. My husband wants to put up a snow fence. I just say, you guys should be able to get this fixed. It takes like 2 minutes to stop by the house and say, you can't put your leaves in the street until the night before they're to be picked up, or bag them and they'll come and get them, whatever you want to do. But if you make the rule, you should abide by the rule. And if you guys can't do it, why do you bother to send it out? Every year I have the same complaint, and every year it's never answered by anyone. And it just gets really old. I've lived there 26 years, and it's just getting sick. I think you guys should really be more forthcoming with what you're putting down in this, because nobody pays attention to it. I do. But of course, I'm sometimes a rule follower. Not always, but sometimes. And I really think that, you know, what is the big deal? We don't even live that far away from the service department on Triplet. I mean, they could just come 1 block off of Triplet and throw it in his mailbox. I don't care what you do, but if you don't, it just encourages the rest to put them out there. You know, because nothing happens. Unless you're getting them all blown your way, you probably don't get it, but it's really frustrating. Thank you very much.
Joyce, thank you so much for sharing. I'm just going to encourage you also to reach out to your council person too, okay?
You pardon?
I encourage you to reach out to your council person as well. Maybe he'll be around after the meeting, okay?
One other time I had an issue, and I did talk to my council person, and really I ended up getting the issue solved myself.
Okay, well thank you so much for sharing. Thank you.
All right.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is My name is Tanya King. I live at 555 Fernwood Drive, 44320. My issue is that I was wondering why the people in wheelchairs that live at Safety Towers was riding in the street. Well, 2 weeks ago, I have found that question had been answered. I saw one of the guys in the wheelchair get stuck right there on the corner of Copley and Wildwood, where they had fixed the sidewalk. They left one of the pieces of the sidewalk unfinished and just filled it up with some gravel. And if you're walking, you can walk around that. But in the wheelchair, you get stuck. That's humiliated for those people. Could y'all get that fixed? That's been there for a while. I can't say years, but I have noticed it when I walk my grandson. I had noticed it when I walked him in his stroller this year. Now, it's humiliated for those people to be stuck and somebody got to help them out. It's dangerous for them to be riding on Copley Road just to go around one piece of that it could be filled up, one piece of sidewalk that could be filled up. So I have to bring this to y'all. I took pictures if you want to see them, but could y'all help out those people that live at Safety Tower? I did forget the address, but it's on the south side of Copley and Wildwood.
Okay. Tanya, thank you so much. And after the meeting, I'm going to have you to meet with Mr. Ludlow, okay, so we can get it addressed.
Thank you.
Good evening, fellow Akron residents and members of City Council. My name is Anthony Powers, and I live up in Ward 10 up in Goodyear Heights. And up in my ward here this summer, I've had the experience and the unpleasurable experience of road construction up there, to where they came down my road, paved most of my road, left a part of my road unpaved from May and still unpaved till this day. They also did another section of a road up in Goodyear Heights. It's called Morning View Avenue. And when they did Morning View Avenue, they did it down to where I think it's the intersection of Indianola and Morning View Avenue, to where they came through with a grade. And when they came through with a grade, after they graded it and paved it, there's a puddle that forms from about here all the way up 5 feet out. And the reason the puddle's there is they didn't make the grade to where the water will run to the sewer, and there's no sewer right there on that corner. And I've already talked to Mr. Miller, like the one lady who spoke a minute ago, to address the issue on my street on Tonawanda. They finally came down and ground it, and they're doing Britton Road, and I guess my street's supposed to be done after Britton Road. But they were also supposed to come back and fix an area on the corner of Sumatra and Tonawanda that's a poor patch job from a water repair they did right after the street. And we have a couple risers that are the same way, where they were supposed to bring the risers up with the road, and they haven't. And then in the same area up there on the Brooklands and Pilgrim, there's been a orange, I would call it a barrel, over a hole that is that big around. It's been there for 2.5 months. And if you go down Newton Street between Goodyear Boulevard and the Brooklands, there are, I believe, 6 manholes where the tops have been knocked off. One of them in particular has had an orange cone on it for 2 years. For 2 years. You know, it's a little bit ridiculous where you come to us and you ask us to help support levies for road repairs, and we're not getting the road repairs we're supposed to be getting in a timely frame of mind. And it's really kind of aggravating on that issue, but then you have the other issues that I see when I drive in the city, like over on Wilbeth Road near the fire station. I can't think what the adjacent street is, where they did some work on a bridge and they leave concrete debris, and where they're doing these gas repair lines, they'll use these green soak rags to keep the dirt and all from going in the sewer. But after they're done with the work, they just leave it there. They leave the cones there and everything. You know, I mean, if these are contractors in our city, don't we hold them accountable for their work? You know, it's very, very aggravating. And then, like I said, you'll be coming to me and asking me again for money on different levies, and I probably ain't gonna be voting for those levies unless I see some better public services. Thank you very much.
Mr. Powers, thank you so much. And after the meeting, if you'd be so kind to stay, and Mr. Lettle, he'll meet with you, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else here in the audience that would like to speak during our public comment period? Seeing and hearing none, we will close our public comment period and move into our committee assignments. Rules, Councilperson Keith. Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman. Planning, Councilman Fusco. Public Service, Councilperson Keith. Public Utilities, Councilperson Samples. Councilperson, it's okay. Public Safety, Councilman Kamer. Parks and Rec, Councilman Neal. Housing, Councilman Kilby. Health and Social Services, Councilperson Omobian. Economic Development, Councilperson Sims. Green Committee, Councilman Swirsky.
12:30.
Is there anything else coming before council? Councilman Neal?
Thanks, Madam Chair. We didn't have time to get a formal resolution in this week. Next week, I know we'll have one coming in. I just wanted to acknowledge the life and contribution of Congressman Elijah Cummings. A lot of us have learned about him recently because of the lead that he's taking in the impeachment talks, and of course, he's been a figure of attack by the president. But when you read the information that's being posted on him, and if you've had a chance to hear him speak, it's interesting. At the age of 11, he got involved in the civil rights struggle, desegregating the swimming pool in his community. And just wanted to acknowledge, you know, in the African community, they say when an elder dies, the library burns. At 68, he wasn't very old. But just want to acknowledge his life and his contribution to this nation. And then I also want to speak on something, you know, as we as a community work to become more diverse, and we use the words of equity and inclusion. A couple years back, we tried to have a discussion about an issue that was sensitive to many in the community, talking about Columbus Day. And last week was the Columbus holiday. And there was something that happened that I felt showed insensitivity on our part as a city. There was an email that went out that said on Columbus Day, the city golf courses would be open for free golf. And I kind of thought, would we have done that if the atrocities that Columbus committed were against another nationality in our community, or against a special interest group in our community? And, you know, since we've had our discussion here in these chambers, the city of Sandusky and some other Ohio cities have done away with Columbus Day, or they don't celebrate it. Even our nation's our state capital, the city of Columbus, whose sister city is Italy, and they do millions of dollars with that city, no longer celebrates Columbus Day. They have moved, their offices are open on Columbus Day, and they have moved the holiday, the paid holiday, to Veterans Day. So I say that to say, when we talk about, because there's a lot of conversation, and we've had conversation inside these halls asking people, what is the definition of equity and inclusion? And understanding, just become a more empathetic community to the diversity. I know I took offense when I saw the email go out that said, you know what, city employees can have free rounds of golf at any one of the city parks. And I just had to wonder if that would have been the same case if, you know, instead of Columbus, we were talking about Hitler or someone else. Or instead of indigenous people, we were talking about some other group that may have more political clout. So just hopefully we can, you know, as you know better, you do better. The thing about that, when we talk about unconscious bias, we've been talking about that a lot in our community. We've been talking about it so much. The things we talk about now, we're not unconscious of. We're conscious now of a lot of the things that have disenfranchised or imposed inequitable actions on people. Now we're at the point, either we are insensitive about our actions, but we cannot rely anymore on saying that we're unconscious because we've been made aware. So I just wanted to bring us to our attention. Hopefully next year we could be use a little bit better course of judgment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilperson Amobian?
Thank you, Madam President. I forgot to ask you earlier to have a moment of silence for Congressman Cummings, but I hope we can do it before we leave this evening. But all on the website and newspapers, what I have read about Congressman Cummings, it's just been so heartfelt. And we certainly want to send heartfelt condolences to his family and colleagues in Congress. But I read this particular quote, and I think it speaks volumes about the kind of man he was. He was a powerful voice for equality and opportunity. He was a tireless advocate for affordable health care, quality education, civil rights, and criminal justice reform. As chairman of the Committee of Oversight and Reform, Congressman Cummings defended the less fortunate by ensuring federal government programs were meeting the needs of the people of his district and this country. So not only was he fighting constantly for the people of Baltimore, but he was fighting for this country. And I tell you, I regret that during my trips to Washington, we never got an opportunity to meet him. But I have followed him over the television and recently through all these hearings, but I've been quite impressed by him, and I think we've lost a giant in this country, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. And I think at this moment it'll be a perfect opportunity if we can just have a moment of silence just to remember the life, the legacy, and the work of Congressman Cummings. Thank you. Is there anything else coming before council? Councilperson Sims.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to acknowledge the work that took place over this weekend at Park East. I know Mr. Costa is here, and a number of folks from the Park East community who came together in this city. Handyman Ludlow, we call him, did a tremendous work over in Park East, creating a Kaboom playground and the concrete slinger here. Just a huge undertaking. It just shows us the beauty that we can bring to fruition when the community, private sector, public sector, nonprofits come together to do a good work. Yes. Just beautiful, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. I know you weren't there because it's your birthday. You know, I'm going to sing right now, it's your birthday. Happy birthday. But I just wanted to acknowledge and just say how grateful I was to see just hundreds of folks come together, yes. Alpha Phi Alpha, and a number of other groups, to make that beautiful thing happen over at Park East. So thank you. And if you haven't seen it, go take a look. I had never seen the resurfacing of a basketball court. I heard of it, but you can actually resurface it so it looks like a flooring. It's just beautiful, a beautiful mural. It's just beautiful. And I've had the privilege to be a part of a couple of Kaboom projects, but not one of this magnitude. So again, thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else coming before council? Is there a second?
Second.
We are adjourned.